All right. We can get into chapter 2 here. I got the same shirt on as before. Probably you can tell I recorded this in the same day. Same pictures behind me. So I'll get chapter 2 and 3. I think by 4, I'm out of this setting. So anyway, let me see if we can fill in the blanks here as I'm about ready to push something. Let me share my screen. All right. Today, or for this section, we're going to be talking about income statements, balance sheets, and budgets. Oh, we got some good stuff for you on budgets coming up here. I think it's one of the more important things that you can actually know in this class. So I will share all that stuff with you. So talk about balance sheets and income. Start off with balance sheets and income statements. What is a balance sheet? You might be asking yourself. You probably are up late at night, these big questions all the time, tossing and turning. One of those questions might be, what is a balance sheet? A balance sheet, simply put, is a financial statement that describes a person's financial position at a given time. It's a snapshot that can be taken at any time for any individual or company. Let's say you had, I gave you $20. It's all you had. You had no money. Some of you might say that's pretty accurate. No money. I gave you $20. So you go and you get something for to eat. It cost you, it's $6.32. Okay, that means you have you're out $6.32, and then what do you still have left in your assets? You have what would be $13.68. Okay, that is basically your in a sense a balance sheet. Okay, and we'll get it. I think we get into we don't. So it's basically a financial statement. Describes a person's financial position at any given time. It's a snapshot, and companies can do this a lot. Companies can do balance sheets. It's you see that a lot. Like there's that show called The Profit on CNBC. You want to see like their numbers or balance sheets, and that way you can tell exactly how much money a company or a person has in the bank or liquid at any given time. So the balance sheet is just like right now, how do your finances look in reality, right? Next is an income statement that measures financial performance over a given time. You can do an income statement for yourself. It has, just breaks down all of your inflows and your outflows. Inflows meaning your deposits, outflows meaning all of your expenses or expenditures. And generally, businesses will do an income statement for, a year, a quarter, like 3 months is good. For 2 quarters or 6 months, you can do that. You can determine what that income statement can look like. But an income statement measures financial performance over a given time, as opposed to a balance sheet, which is right that moment where you kind of sit at that specific time in history. What are the components or parts of a balance sheet? There's 3 main components. Your assets, that's what you have, what you own. Your liabilities, that is, what you owe. And then you do a little math. It's a very simple math, and you get out of that, you get your net worth. What are assets? That's what you own. Could be your cash, could be your liquidity. It could be you can add in your your securities or your stocks, your property. Those are assets, right? Liabilities or debt is what you owe. Net worth, that would be the same. Net worth would be the same as your equity. Net worth is the difference between your assets and your liabilities. So you take your assets minus your liabilities, then you get your net worth. Pretty basic stuff, but it's, now you're kind of, basic stuff, simple stuff, hopefully explained in a simple way, but important stuff too. Types of assets. We talked about this a little bit before. There's liquid assets. There's assets, like I said before, that just can be converted into cash. Some people say, I want to be very liquid. I want to have a lot of liquidity, meaning I want to have access to cash. Because why would somebody want to be very liquid? Because maybe they don't trust the market, the stock market. Actually, as a matter of fact, I know some pretty well-to-do people who, as I'm recording this, which is, what's the date here? March 28th, 2021, because of what's happening kind of with some things, the stock market, they are converting a lot of their stocks, selling their stocks off and having a lot of cash. Or there's the expression that they're trying to keep all their powder dry, like their gunpowder, keeping their powder dry, so that they can kind of stock that back up and make that into something. So that's liquidity. Investments are just, there's a type of assets. Again, the goal is to make money, to get a return. With liquid assets, you generally aren't trying to make in too much off of that. You really can't. I mean, the rates for, for even, possibly you can get something in savings, but not really. I mean, you used to be able to, but not anymore. So investments is an asset type or an asset classification. The goal is to make money, to get a return. Real property, once again, the goal for that is to potentially make money, get a return. Real property, that's immovable property. Real, when you see real property, generally it's associated to real estate. Real property, immovable property, land, housing, anything fixed to a land, right? And within real property, and we'll get probably a little bit deeper into this with the real estate asset classifications. There's, single family homes, which could be, where you live in a house, your house, which is one family. Then there's multifamily homes or dwellings, which could be a small apartment complex, little condo complex, duplexes, those kind of things. There's commercial properties, there's industrial properties, retail is basically the same as commercial. There's all kinds of different things. You can have office space. There's a ton of different asset classifications within real estate. And there's personal property. Personal property is just anything that's property that is movable, that you can move, either operate to move it, or you can pick it up and move that. So these are the four main types of assets classifications. Fair market value, not original retail price, is used to determine the value of personal property. So let's say you have your personal property here, your movable property. How much is it worth? It is worth the fair market value, not the original price, because there's something called depreciation. So, and we'll get into this. This kind of applies to cars too. Kind of giving you a little bit of maybe a sneak peek in cars, but everybody thinks when you get a new car, I have a new car. Newsflash: if there's a car on the road, it is not a new car. Even if you bought it that day, it's not a new car. If you bought it once you drive it off the lot, you've done the paperwork, it is technically a used car. Okay. So, and when it is used, it goes down, it depreciates in value. Okay. So, like anything, there are some things and some assets that will, be worth more. Classic cars, sometimes. But for the most part, things do go down in value. So let's say you lose something, or you have an insurance claim, we'll get into insurance and all this kind of stuff later, and you want to replace that, you will get the fair market value, not the original price, retail price, for that good or for that asset. Here's a balance sheet formula. Probably should have been a few slides earlier. Is total assets is equal to total liabilities plus total net worth. Or this is just a simple math formula where you take the total assets and you bring it to the other side of the equation. And for the bottom, you see what we did here? The top one is total assets equals total liabilities plus net worth, and a simple algebraic formula where you take net worth, throw it on the other side of the equation, and put total assets on the other side of the equation. And they both add up to the same amount. It's just two different ways to get for a balance sheet formula. Net worth is equal to equity. How much more you have of what your worth is compared to what you owe. So net worth is equal to equity. Insolvency, it's a big word. You owe more than your worth. You are insolvent, right? Your liabilities are what you owe outweighs your assets. Insolvency. Instead of saying you're broke, you can say you're insolvent. I think on the quiz I have a couple insolvency related questions on there. How to calculate a balance sheet. List your assets at fair market value. List all your current and long-term liabilities. We'll get into the different current. We'll get into that a little bit later. Because I have two additional videos for for liquidity ratios. That will be on the exam. There's a liquidity ratio, and I got another great video about budgets that you can watch. I'm going to post those in the announcements as well. I think the budget one I really like. I think you're really going to like it, and it's a really great tool that I'm going to give you that I wish I had when I was younger. But I think it's really cool. So how to calculate a balance sheet: list your assets at fair market value, list all your current and long-term liabilities, and then from there you calculate your net worth. I'll go into more detail on that the liquidity ratio video, which I'm going to post as well. Income statement basically shows what you earned and how you spent your money over a period of time, over a specific period of time. You can have an income statement and make sure it's at the top. It says this is from January 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2021. So that would be your income statement for the first quarter of that year. That just basically shows you what you've earned and how you spent your money over a period of time. Solvency ratio. You don't have to know most of these ratios. The liquidity one, you definitely will. But in solvency ratio, that just kind of shows you how much of a cushion or safety you have to protect against insolvency. You want that number to be positive. The lower the number, the greater probability you can't pay off their debt. That's just basically you take your total net worth. We discussed net worth in some previous slides, and you divide that or put that over your total assets, and that's going to be your solvency ratio. Liquidity ratio. This is the ability to pay off current debts. How many months can you go on your current liquid assets if an emergency occurs? I'll walk you through this on that other video I'm going to put up. So let's say you've got a job, you lose a job, everything goes to, and you got to figure out, okay, how long can I survive on my current assets? Everything that I have, essentially, all my liquid assets, I should say. How long can you survive? Take into consideration your current spending, your current bills, your current liabilities. So that's what your liquidity ratio is. And like I said, I have a video that goes into detail about that. So how many months can you go on your current liquid assets if an emergency occurs? Pay off current debt obligations without getting any outside help. That's, you're gonna have to basically pay those current, basically current. This also known as a current ratio. Current debt versus long-term debt. Current debt is generally considered anything less than 1 year. Okay. Long-term is anything greater potentially than 1 year. That could be credit card debt and other types of debt as well. But for your liquidity ratios, number in the ones is good. Okay, because that usually means it's more. You have more than 1 year worth of liquidity. If you got a liquidity ratio of like 0.3 something, that means basically a third of a year. 0.3, which would be 30% of a year. That's what you have left before you'd have to dip in, or you have to before you exhausted all of your liquidity. Savings ratio, your cash surplus divided by income after taxes, doesn't really matter. This is kind of I don't even know why I put this up here. Indicates how much surplus cash you could have. Debt service ratio, this is actually an important one for when you're going to potentially get loans. It's your total monthly loan payments over your monthly gross income. This determines the ability to pay debts promptly. We'll get into this more when we talk about credit and kind of that magic, that number, that sweet spot of how much about your credit utilization rate. How much credit do you want to use that you have available to you? And that just kind of a preview, that's about 30%. So because you don't want to, because it's going to look like to potential lenders, are you going to buy something if you're using too much of your credit? It looks like it won't look good, and they most likely either will not potentially not give you a loan, or at a minimum give you a higher interest rate and charge you more money to use their money, right? That's it. Chapter 2 was quick, easy. Hold on, let me get out of here. And So I will put up, you can watch this video. Also, I'm going to put the video. There's going to be a quiz attached to this. Also, you can watch the budget example, which I think technically goes to chapter 3 too, but still you can watch it whenever you want. And then and there will be a sizable, a big question on the first exam will be a budget. I'll give you a scenario and just ask you, okay, what are acceptable ranges for this budget? And then there's a liquidity ratio example coming up too. I like the liquidity ratio one. It kind of you can kind of wrap your head around the concept of liquidity ratio, the concept of liquidity and your cash with your assets. And yeah, so that's it. Everybody, fight on. Talk to you soon. Scram.